Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side, food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Welcome back. I'll tell you what, have you ever had that kind of an occasion when you've got a whole bunch of friends, you want to have them round, and you want to give them a great meal at the same time, sort of one big roast, say. You can sit at the end of the table or stand and hack pieces off it and say, isn't this marvelous, you know, that we're celebrating all of this piece of meat. Do you feel like that just now and again? Well, I really hope so, because I call the table the last remaining tribal meeting place, where we all come around it and look in towards each other and just look for a good time and look to be sustained and everything else. So we don't have to kill people in the bargain, but I mean, wouldn't it be nice? I'll tell you, it was that kind of thing that has happened to Mary and Al. Mary and Al Barnick are actually fabulous people, because they used to work for Sears. They've retired now. They've got all kinds of children all over. Six, isn't it? No? Six children and all kinds of grandchildren. Five, is that? And they're into the RV thing, and they travel around all over the place. Well, now let me tell you a little bit about them. Here they are. Well, here's Mary. Now Mary is a part American Indian, and Al, husband, is all German. Okay, by about one generation. She has a goal, which is to lose about 35 pounds, okay? And she finds it a little bit tricky because, well, she's got the fat balance thing right, but she says, you know, all you've got to do nowadays is just breathe, isn't it? If you don't count at the same time, you put on weight. And that's so true, Mary, I agree. Well, this dish is right on the 30% of calories from fat, but it is a celebration, isn't it? Just once in a while, it's nice to celebrate. And you know what got my attention about you? Was this individual food preference list that we sent out. And you said that you like Northwest food, and I agree to that, and you like Southwest food. Well, at least you stayed on this side. And you also like Italian. Hey, you've got so much in common with everybody else, it's amazing. Roasting was your #1 method. So I thought, right, okay. Then I spotted the fact, roast beef and roast pork, that you were, I said, this is my guy, I think I know what to do. Then sage and thyme came up, but what threw me was that you crossed out the word caraway, and so did Al. And I thought, can I sneak up on them so that they don't really know? It seems like we did, because you enjoyed it. All right, so main ingredients were pork again, and I noticed that Al sneaked in with tofu. And I wondered, you've retired, you're happily married, you've got all his children, grandchildren, it can't be that bad. But don't let tofu come between you. Just every now and again, a little tofu. You can eat melon. And then Brussels sprouts. For the very first time in your life, Mary, you told me that this was the time you cooked Brussels sprouts. And all the 8 people that came to dinner, they liked them as well. What an extraordinary thing, because most people don't like Brussels sprouts. Okay, garlic is on your thing. So this is what we do at home, aside from Mary, now just for you. What we do is we give you, in the book which goes with this series, we'll give you a full page to fill in your preferences for food in a massive way, so that you'll know, and for the family as well, know what they like. Then you can reduce the risk a little bit by techniques I'm going to show you now, and then enhance the flavors by putting the foods you love together. And we call that springboarding. You ready? Okay, come through and I'll show you how it's done. Well, it's called springboarding because we actually bounce up and down on a basic technique and then make the technique work in order to reduce the risk and enhance the flavor. So this time it's kind of roast gravies, all right? And so we have to have a roast to go with the gravy, and so I thought, well, come on, let's celebrate. Let's have a big piece of roast pork. Now, you could use beef if, for some reason, you know, religious purposes, pork is not on, so you can use that, okay. But the basic technique remains the same. Now, here is a pan full of fat, okay? Now that's come from a roasting process. Now, believe it or not, this fat in there, you may not see it because it's all kind of dark, but if I shake it, you'll see loads of fat in there. Here, this pan is completely empty, and this is before you'd start the roasting process. I would put in a trivet, okay? This is a trivet, and it keeps the meat off the bottom of the pan, which makes it much less messy, because if the meat goes right onto the pan, it goes shh, like this, and the moisture content in the meat hisses, and the fat goes all over the side of the oven and makes it nasty business to clean up or expensive. The other thing about a trivet is that I would always leave it a smaller trivet than the dish itself, so that you can get a spoon in on the side and anoint the joint as you're going. Now, here's 2 cups of water. I always put cold water in the bottom underneath the roast, so that when the fat drips down into the water there, it hits the cooler water and it doesn't atomize back up and again make a mess of the oven. Make sense? And also it doesn't caramelize on the bottom of the dish and bake on, a real pain to be able to get off. So that's why I put that on. And it seems to keep the joint nice and succulent too. All right, so let's turn our attention back to this one. Here is the one with all the fat on it. Now here's the technique. Normally you'd put flour on the top of that, would you? And then shovel it all around and make a kind of roux on the basis, and then put vegetable water on the top, and there's your gravy. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put 2 cups of unsweetened apple juice. That's a clear apple juice on the top. And then, oh, where is it? Then with a flat bladed spurtle there, just go over the bottom. As a matter of fact, I don't need to because nothing's caramelized. It's just perfect. It's just really great. And then, where is it? Ah, there we go. Then just take a fat strainer. This is a fat strainer, and you'll see what it does in just a sec. Get this pan up. Now, this is hot fat, so be really careful how you handle this because it's long and therefore it's a little bit tricky. And, good. Whoa, spilled a little, but there we are. And there it goes, almost to the top. And it is full of flavor. I mean, just truly full of flavor. What's going to happen here is that we're going to get all of this collar of fat off the top when it would have gone in the sauce. Okay? So I'll clean up very quickly, and let's see what's on the menu.
Today on Graham Kerr's Kitchen, roast pork and clear applesauce. A celebration roast for Christmas Day with Brussels sprouts, baked potatoes, and broiled tomatoes.
Okay, Mary, Al, now I know what happened in your case, which is that you went to the butcher and he didn't have enough time to be able to get the special cut, so you got a pork loin, and that was fine, but you didn't get the crackling on the outside as well. Now watch this. Now, this is a whole leg. I mean, this is a big pig. I mean, this, if you're running around in your RV and you hit one, you know, this is what to do with it. Actually, I've done this so as to show you the various parts so that you can tell clearly to the butcher what you want. This is the hock end. This is like a ham end. It's like a small ham there, and that is taken off. And they cut that off with a bandsaw. This is the Boston butt, believe it or not, and that is the top end. And so we'll take the top and the bottom end away. Just think of the expense that we go to. Thank you, John, by the way, for authorizing that expenditure. Just a little aside, friend. Okay, now we're left with the center cut of the pork, and this is what I'd like you to ask for. This is a 6-pound center cut leg, all right? So that's what it is. Now, when you get it back home, the thing to do is a little bit tricky, and you need a real sharp knife for this one, and that is you make incisions right over the top, down through the fat, but not into the meat itself, about every 1/4 of an inch through. And I know what you're going to say to me. I could almost hear you saying, that is too difficult for me. Rubbish. Nothing's too difficult for you. Nothing's too difficult for you. You see, nothing. You know, you can do anything. It's just whether you want to do it or not, and this is so attractive. Truly, it's a wonderful thing to look at. All right, so having dealt with that one, you then open this up and you take a sharp knife and you pull out the bone. It comes out a little bit of a struggle like that, but there is the bone which will be removed. And this leaves then a socket. Now, we're going to see what to do with that socket. By the way, I'm keeping one cloth here and some yard paper. I'm going to make sure that this isn't used for anything else. This is just my wipe down cloth, just so that you remember that. Okay. Now, I've got 3 cloves of garlic, and the customary fashion that we have with this is to just put this on the top. Now, when Mary is telling us that when they had about 8 friends around to enjoy this one and to put the dish to the test, that they came in through the front door and said, you know, it smells wonderful. Well, part of that is the aroma which comes up from the chopping of garlic into the dish. Now, there's 3 cloves of garlic, and then about 20 leaves, 10. As Trina says, you have a mania for exaggeration. Well, that's not strictly true, but these are 10 leaves of sage, all right? Now, it's fresh sage, and if you could possibly do that, you could normally find it in little plastic bags in the produce department. If not, dried, because dried does do all right with sage, so that's quite good. So about 20 leaves there, about a tablespoonful when you actually chop up a fresh bit. And then just a little salt to that, about 1/8 of a teaspoonful of salt. And if you could possibly find a little mill like this one and use fresh sea salt to it, it has one tremendous, I'm putting pepper on now, one tremendous benefit, about 1/8 of a teaspoonful of each. And that is that you can, when you get a knife point at it and you start squashing down what you've already partially chopped, you're melting it together, and the roughness of that salt is acting rather like sandpaper, a very coarse grade of sandpaper, and it's helping to be able to make a mush out of it. This is a rub. This is called a rub. Ha! There's the rub. You've heard that, you know, in Shakespeare. Well, that's what they were referring to, in a manner of speaking. And so that is done so that you've got a really pongy rub. I mean, that really pongs. Now let's go into the aft end here and just drop that down into that cavity. I mean, the bone was there, and now there's no bone there, so something has to happen. So this goes into the center, and then I like to really massage it in. If I had a pair of rubber gloves, I'd sort of get in there now and just really massage it in, just work it in. This is, I mean, rub. And when the heat crops up underneath this and rises up through the muscle, because it's going to be cooked that way down, it just permeates through the whole meat, just fragrant, wonderful. Now, it doesn't stink of garlic, not at all. It has this great flavor. Now, you remember these 1/4-inch cuts that we did? Well, just take some more salt. You'll have a look at the sodium at the end. It's not as bad as it looks. And then a teaspoonful of caraway. Now, here's the caraway that was really worrying me about, I think it was Al that was worrying me more than Mary. I don't know why. I'll find out. Maybe, Al, are you desperately conservative? You know, most chaps are, you know. You then press the caraway down into the incisions, like so. And it even if you have hated caraway all of your life, when you taste it this way, and what it does to the crackling is just extraordinary. Okay, now, where's that hot? So you put this side down, all right, just like so. Now, there it is on top of that bunch of water. Now, you could put it in like this, and that would be fine. But if you do that, the gaping hole, which is in the top, will make its appearance rather untidy. And so if you really want to do this, you take skewers, little fine skewers. You can buy packets of them in good food departments. You know, there's nice shops which you enjoy going to, okay? And then a piece of string, and then you lace it up, rather like an old boot. Well, forgive me calling it an old boot, but it's going to taste much better than an old boot, unless you tread around in fresh sage and garlic, of course. Here we go. Just make a quick knot on there, tie that together, and that'll keep that very attractive when you actually see it in the final appearance. although it looks a little odd at the present moment. It looks really good. Now, don't baste it with anything at all, okay? This now goes into the oven. It's going to cook for 2.5 hours at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees centigrade. And just pop that in there and close the door. Of course, you could always leave the oven door open, and that would encourage 30 people from down the street to be able to come down to you as well and take a little longer to cook. Okay, now, one thing I want to add to this, well, let me get the other one out first of all. Here is the roast which has been cooking for the 2.5 hours, and it takes on the most incredible appearance. Look at that. Huh? Now I'm just going to pop underneath the broiler these vegetables, and I'll explain the vegetables to you in just a moment. Just stick those up, and they need 5 minutes, which is exactly what I've got. All right, now, the big thing here is to, I thought I heard it drop earlier on, just my thermometer, is to make sure that the temperature is correct. Now, pork has changed recently. You can now take this right up to 155 degrees Fahrenheit and then take it out and let the meat set about 20 minutes. That'll push it up to 160. Actually, the trichinosis or trichinosis, which used to be the problem with roast pork, you know, the reason why it was cooked so well, and usually until it was dry. Come off the trivet, would you? The reason why that was done was because they thought that it was just trichinosis. Now it's only about 0.1% of meat which is ever affected, and it's all killed at 137 degrees Fahrenheit anyway, so it's really become a thing of the past, all right? So take that out, and you remember what we did with this? This is exactly how we started the whole program, so I don't need to actually touch that anymore. That would be just repeating myself. And so that makes the gravy, and let's have a look at the gravy then. By the way, this is the one which I was wiping my hands in before, so that goes away. Here is the gravy. Now see how that collar has set up on the top? Well, what I want to do here is to just pour off that little bit of fat, all right? Because that piece of fat had formed in the top of the collar of the spout there. Now, I heated the pan first because I wanted to get this going and get it quite hot. And this is one of those infuriating things. It doesn't matter how fast you want to move, it's going to move at its own speed. This is, do you see what's happening now? This beautiful gravy is pouring out of the bottom, which is fat-free. And the fat is on the top, and there it is. Now we stop there. Now that, my loved ones, is fat. And that would normally be in that recipe. And that really sinks you. You wait till you see the difference in the values. And basically, that's where the values are coming from. Okay, now here is a tablespoonful and a half of arrowroot. I'm going to pull this to the side and pop that in, just mixed with a little bit of clear apple juice, the same stuff we used in the beginning. Just shoot that around, just to whip it up together, put it on the heat, raise the heat underneath it, and that will come to this beautiful gravy. All right, so here's a few little vegetables. Here are some Brussels sprouts, and if you've never attacked a Brussels sprout before, if you'll forgive the expression, you just take it like so, make a little cross in the bottom, and then pop those into 2.5 cupfuls of swiftly boiling apple juice. Truly, just 10 minutes, and they'll be ready, and that's perfect, and that's just what those are there. Now, the other thing is take a little of the juice from the roasting, you know, like the bit that I got out of the top of the nozzle there just now in the fat strainer, and just anoint the top of a split, this is a yellow finished potato, and put that in underneath the broil. It takes half an hour in the oven, and then you just broil it at the end for just 5 minutes, like I was doing just then. And then this is a tomato. Just cut the tomato like this and put a leaf of fresh basil into the top of the tomato. It just feels fantastic. All right. So first of all, the roast, and let's see how this goes. All you have to do here is just to run the blade of a knife around underneath this fatty outside skin. Now, the skin is crisp and fantastic. It has a wonderful flavor. And right underneath that skin, there is a layer of fat. And the fat has to be taken right down and removed, literally. You've just got to cut that away, and no matter whether you love it or whether you don't, it's bye-bye time if you're going to have anything like the numbers that we've got here. Now, if you think of a child's hand, and Mary and Al, you've got enough around to know what that's like. A child's hand, when it's quite young, is 3 slices. That's a little bit large. That's a better size there. 3 slices like that will be enough to be able to give you the portion size which will fit the numbers that I've got here. Okay? Now, we just set that to one side, and just let's give ourselves just the bits and pieces that we need. Here is the vegetable content of it, and we've got a tomato, and we've got the potatoes, which have been lovely and gilded like that, and a few of the Brussels sprouts just lifted up out of that apple juice and poured on the top. Fabulous. Looks really great. And on top of that, then, here's the roast gravy. Look at that roast gravy. Just look at that. And it is just smashing stuff. Would you like to have a look and see what that looks like? A little bit of parsley over the top. Come on through, let's see. Whoa, just a moment. After all of that trouble, I forgot crackling. After going to all that trouble. All right, crackling on the side, about 2 by 4 inches will give you about 10 grams of fat. Woo! Yes, this is the classic. That one of my old dishes that I compared with, which had, those are the calories from fat, which was exactly 100% of what is called the daily value for fat. Now we've got this down to 270, which is 46% of what is called the daily value for fat, which is about 66 grams if you're on 30%. Calories from fat, 2,000 calories. You understand what I'm talking about. You know, one of these, I'm just going to have a piece of that. The cracking is a celebration. And if you can still do that, know you've still got a certain amount of fat for the day, hey, you can still celebrate, because that's what this whole business of springboarding is all about. Bless you. Well, let us assume for a moment that you've cooked the roast and you've fought back your friends so that they don't have any more than the 3 slices, and you've got a whole hunk left. Now, 8 ounces is what you need in terms of leftovers, cut into very small pieces, like kind of julienne, like large fat matchsticks, and there's enough there for 2 ounces per head, all right? Now, what you do is just put in a teaspoonful, 1, 2, 3, 4, of oil into the bottom of that pan. And then what we normally call is a baoziang. And what that is pieces of ginger root cut nice and thin. Now, that's put down into the pan so that immediately that they hit and they start to sizzle around the outside, the most wonderful flavor comes up, and aroma. And then just scatter over the top of that a couple of cloves of garlic and a small bunch of the green tops of the green onions. Now that, the flavor that just whistles up over that is just marvelous. Now, with about a half a cup of this apple juice, same kind of concept, mix that up with a couple of teaspoonfuls of arrowroot, right? And then pour that, contrary to what we normally do, into there. Now that's a very thin sort of gloss which we're going to have over the top. Now, in this pan here, I got cooking, just to save time, just some snow peas and carrots, and in with that a little jicama as well and some celery. Now, all you have to do is just to dump on top of there, when you've got this going, you dump the meat on the top, shovel that around, and the flavor pickup is extraordinary. Now, though you've got these large pieces, they're very, very thin pieces of ginger. And if you like ginger, you're just going to love this, really. When that's nice and hot, just toss it down on top of the rest of that stir-fry and drop it all around. Now, all you have to do then is just simply to take this, that slurry, and just stir it into the top. Now, just watch this. The incredible thing about this is the gloss. It looks as if you've just got oil all over it, which of course you haven't. Now here, over the top, 2 tablespoonsful of light sodium soy sauce, and just a little bit of a sprinkle of toasted sesame oil. Just at the very last moment, it has the most fabulous effect. So there you are. There is a stir fry which you'll be able to put together in moments, which has extremely low fat, and that would be the portion for it. Okay? No time to eat, as normal. God bless. Well, Mary, Al, into the caraway, loves. Just make caraway one of those great sensations of your life, and bless you for loving Brussels sprouts. Now, it's washing up time. Okay, Al, you understand that.